Hello, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well today. Welcome back. We're going to continue going through this lawsuit that Bogdan Ionescu has filed last November. Disclaimer, please do not attempt to contact anybody that may come up in this video, anybody I mentioned in this video. This is all commentary and opinion on a publicly available document. Viewer discretion advised, and trigger warning, contains graphic and disturbing details of crimes against children and humanity. So let's get back into it. Now, we're at the part of this lawsuit where Ian Bogdu is describing himself in this lawsuit. Plaintiff is a citizen of Romania and a former resident of the Harvest Homes. Because remember, just in case y'all don't remember, Harvest Church from Riverside opened these orphanages in Romania. Yes, the same orphanages that Erica Kurt was involved in. I'm not really sure if she's brought up in this lawsuit yet or not, but we'll see. But to be honest, she was probably involved mostly in face and not name, but that does not absolve her of any accountability, in my opinion, unless she herself was a victim of the MK Ultra program, and that's what's going on now, which is highly possible and likely. But there's always that chance she's just a horrible, evil person who doesn't mind being associated with this stuff and these types of people. But anyways, let's continue. Bogdan was born in 1990 in Bucharest. He never knew his parents or the rest of his family, as they abandoned him shortly after he was born. That is so sad. Well, maybe there was more to it, Bogdan. I mean, you never know. Maybe they had to, maybe, I don't know. I'm not trying to excuse it, but I'm sorry. Bogdan moved frequently between various Romanian state-run orphanages in his early childhood. He stayed for some time at a state orphanage called Casa Pinocchio, together with Cristina Popescu. I don't know if that's his sister. Probably not. Probably just someone else at the orphanage with him. When Bogdan was 9, he ran away from Casa Pinocchio with Cristina, who was 7, due to the poor living conditions there. To survive, they stayed at a railway station in Bucharest for 2 weeks, sleeping on benches. And no doubt, here comes Havsgard. Oh my God, it's just like in that movie Slumdog Millionaire, where that creepy dude just goes to the slums where the orphans were sleeping, just finding orphans. Oh, it's creepy. Eventually, Havsgard and his wife noticed Bogdan and Cristina, fed them, and invited them to come with him to the Harvest Homes, with promises of better lives. They accepted. At first, Bogdan lived in the Ion Kulu house, but Havsgard later moved him to Dama Raya house. I hope I'm pronouncing these right. I have no idea. Then to the house in Bufti. Okay. There's Greg Lowry. Now we get into talking about Greg Lowry. We're done talking about Bogdan. This is Lowry and his role in it all. Lowry was born in 1952. He currently resides in Newport Beach, California, with a home worth an estimated over $5 million as of June 2025. Glad they mentioned that. Interesting that they did, but I'm glad they did. At all material times herein, Lowry was a resident of California. So it's important to note that all the times that they're talking about, Lowry was a resident of California. Lowry is the co-founder and senior pastor of Harvest Riverside. He has supreme authority and makes all important decisions concerning Harvest Riverside. Energetic and resourceful, Lowry also has become a successful author, podcaster, and national figure. With his oratorical skills that I lack, books, podcasts, TV broadcasts, and regular crusades, Lowry is often likened to Billy Graham and sits on the board of directors of the Billy Graham Oh my God. I sat there and I was doing so good, pronouncing everything like I should. And I get to such a simple word like evangelical. Thank you. I just said it. Association. His podcast has been among the top 100 most popular in the United States. Really? That's interesting. I didn't know that. Good for Greg Lowry. He just succeeds in every single thing he does. Isn't that funny? Some people just, no matter what they want to do a podcast, start a church. They're always just the best of the best and do the most. It's just interesting how these people work. Lowry's crusades typically attract hundreds of thousands of people to the biggest stadiums in Los Angeles area. Hundreds of thousands. Dang. From 2012 to 2018, Lowry also simulcast crusade-type appearances into churches and other venues. A campaign titled Greg Lowry Harvest America. Oh my God. Do you see that title? Greg Lowry Harvest America? Oh, that is so unsettling. To encourage hosts to sign up, he sent a truck-mounted theater around the country offering shows that explained what would be on the offer. And here is a picture of one of those such tour bus, tractor-trailer truck thing. Lowry's wood-paneled office is full of pictures of him in the company of important politicians, religious leaders, and actors. February 2023, the production company Lionsgate released a movie based on Lowry's autobiography called Jesus Revolution, which grossed over $53 million worldwide in its first year, with revenues continuing to grow. I didn't even know they made a movie about him. And there's a picture. I'm assuming these are the actors who played Greg Lowry in the movie. The guy, I assume. The other two ladies, I have no idea who they are. Perhaps the wives, the girl. I don't know. I have no idea. Anywho. Then we move on to Richard Schutt. But before I continue, I think the purpose of bringing all that up about Greg Lowry is just to show his deep ties with, the elites, the important people, to show how much access and money he's got, which makes a horrible power imbalance. And poor Bogdan, he's got an uphill battle with these people. I can already see that. They're not going to take any responsibility for any of this. And I just hope, and I assume he has. Bogdan has tough skin with everything he's been through. I have no doubt he's tough and can handle it. My heart just goes out for him. Okay. Pastor Richard Schutt was a missions pastor at Harvest Riverside between 1996 and 2013. He is currently an assistant pastor at Impact Bible Fellowship in Riverside. During the events described in this complaint, he was a principal deputy to Lowry in charge of supervising Harvest Mission to Romania. So he was supervising it, and he served on the board of ARC International, or ARK, a California charity Havsgard and Lowry set up to raise money for Romania and other foreign projects. Schutt is and was at all material times herein a resident of California. Okay, so apparently he also stayed in California during all this. Okay, now we get to Harvest Christian Fellowship. Harvest Christian Fellowship is a nonprofit religious corporation located in Riverside. It is duly organized and existing under the laws of California. It was founded in 1976 by Lowry, Havsgard, and 3 other men as Calvary Chapel of Riverside, and reconstituted in 1982 as Harvest Christian Fellowship. That is very interesting. So that's the connection. I wondered, because I knew that this connected somehow to Calvary Chapel. Okay, and I see how now. It used to be Calvary Chapel, it just changed its name. I see. The origins of Harvest Riverside lie in the surfing counterculture of Southern California in the 60s and 70s. Lowry, a charismatic motorcycle riding surfer himself who used marijuana and LSD, described himself in a memoir as a long-haired liberal hippie. Pro-drugs, pro-sex, pro-rock and roll. Sounds like the CIA, doesn't it? At age 17, Lowry heard the charismatic hippie preacher Lonnie Frisbee speak at his high school with such authenticity and power that he gave his life to Christ. Frisbee was a dynamic force in the Jesus movement that gathered young people into evangelical Christianity in the Los Angeles area and spurred explosive growth in a Calvary church in Newport Beach, Laurie's hometown, from a handful of members to thousands within a few months. Oh, here we go. Okay, this is important. Larry did not attend college or seminary, but was swept into the Jesus movement through Frisbee's example. And listen, that's important. Now, I'm not saying that you have to have been educated at college to be a preacher or pastor, but it's preferred. Because if you think about it, the preacher is supposed to be someone who has studied it inside and out, front to back, someone who knows it very well. So, you would usually typically want someone like that as your pastor, because they're the ones who you go to with questions about the Bible, and you go to with, come on. I grew up in a church, so I know how it works. I'm just curious. That's interesting that he didn't go to school for it. He just kind of got saved when he was in high school, and then just, very quickly. I just think that's interesting. Okay, so anyway, but he was swept in the Jesus movement either way. He spent considerable time with Frisbee, eating regularly at his house in a commune of believers, and, according to Frisbee's widow, even began to dress and act like him. It's almost like he was studying him intentionally, right? I wonder if that's what his assignment was. Frisbee built up a Monday night Bible study group to approximately 300 members before Chuck Smith, the founder of Calvary, encouraged Laurie to take it over. Oh, which he did around 71. Isn't that interesting? Dang, okay. Frisbee, himself a victim of child abuse, was later excommunicated, oh my God, from the Calvary movement because he was gay. And the story of Harvest Riverside's origins, told in Jesus Revolution, minimizes Frisbee's involvement and arguably amplifies the credit given to Larry for Harvest Riverside's early success. Frisbee's widow Connie says, "I can testify that Greg Laurie is not a truth teller." Ooh, she's calling him out. He has built his ministry on Lonnie's foundation while erasing Lonnie from the story. So that kind of gives credence to my theory that maybe this was actually an assignment and it was less organic than they want us to believe. I mean, that's kind of the vibe I'm really getting. Okay. The producers of Jesus Revolution did not speak to her, she says, after Laurie told them she was dead. What? He just straight up lied? Dang. And they just didn't fact check it. Of course, why would they? I mean, you would think that a big successful preacher like that would never lie like that. Nevertheless, Laurie successfully developed the Bible study group in Newport Beach. He and his wife, Kathy, I assume that's how you pronounce it, or Kath, they started dating when she was 15 and he was 18. Which, okay, maybe I'll let that slide back then. It's still gross and weird and creepy. But, back then, it was, kind of really common. It was really common back then. So, I mean, it's still weird and gross. But anyway. Proved a reliable anchor for attracting followers. Okay, yeah. He and his wife, Kathy, proved a reliable anchor for attracting followers. Harvest Riverside is now one of the largest churches in the United States. Dang. Supporting we went over this, 15,000 each Sunday. That continues to grow. Harvest Riverside's mission is to know God and make him known. It has an active program in Hawaii where Laurie and other ministers maintain luxury homes. In Hawaii. Since 1990, Harvest Riverside had organized regular harvest crusades, which have reached millions of people. It is a member of Calvary Chapel, a non-denominational association of these types of churches, numbering 1,800 in the United States, and additional locations abroad. So it's like a chain, it's like a corporate chain of churches. Isn't that nice? Don't you feel the closeness of the Lord in that? Just a big corporate chain of churches and pastors, and yeah, that sounds super spiritual to me. Anyway, okay. In 2017, Harvest Riverside joined the Southern Baptist Convention. This was considered a coup for the Southern Baptists because of Laurie's prominence in the evangelical movement. That's interesting. So a lot of the Southern Baptists thought that the evangelicals were going to come and take over. Okay, now we get to, that's it for Greg Laurie's background. Now we get to Paul Havsgard. Paul Havsgard was born in 1949 and now lives in Forest Hills, California. And at all material times herein, he was a resident of California, but worked in Romania, I guess. He is the oldest of 7 children. Their father was an alcoholic who was chronically out of work and frequently beat the children, and their mother was a nurse who was often absent because she had to support her struggling family. Havsgard grew up in Riverside, California, and attended Ramona High School, graduating in 1967, and married his high school girlfriend, Kathy Warwick, when she was 16. He then joined the Navy, serving on a destroyer off the coast of Vietnam as an aviation electrician's mate. He took some college classes, but does not have a degree and did not attend seminary. He and Kathy divorced in 2007 and have both remarried. Okay. When Havsgard's marriage to Kathy was in difficulty in 1971, he was advised to attend Laurie's Bible study class. Kathy wanted to end the marriage because she felt no intimacy from Paul, and his only sexual interest was in frequent anal. Okay. Laurie told her that it was her duty as a Christian wife to make the marriage work, and she ultimately oh my God, no! That's horrible advice. It should have been his duty to stop making her do stuff she wasn't comfortable with. Like, what? She was later to say that according to the beliefs prevailing at Harvest, a wife who criticized or contradicted her husband was lower than a sewer. Well, I mean, it does say it in the Bible. I'm just saying. The Havsgards moved to be closer to Laurie and the Calvary community, becoming active in outreach and organizational work. Laurie selected Havsgard to run Harvest Homes in Romania, in part because they had worked closely together for decades, running Harvest Riverside. Wow. Yeah, the more and more I learn about this Greg Laurie guy, the more it seems like his advice, his beliefs, the things he does, the things he says are like all the opposite of goodness. That's just my opinion. I mean, that's just my opinion. Havsgard became assistant pastor in charge of children's ministry. Great. At Harvest Riverside in 1976. In the early 1980s, he left Harvest to become senior pastor at the Calvary Chapel of the High Desert in Victorville, California. Havsgard liked running a church of his own, but as Harvest Riverside grew and Larry began to travel more, Larry thought Havsgard would make a suitable senior deputy and asked him to return. Havsgard accepted because it gave him a chance to operate in a growing organization with larger reach than his isolated desert congregation. Yeah. You know the mentality of these people. It's like big, good, small, bad. That's all they can operate on. Big, good, small, bad. So primitive. Havsgard liked running a church of his own. But as Harvest Riverside... Wait, they just said this. Yeah, we already read that. Okay, here we go. When Havsgard returned to Riverside in 1984, many people viewed him as the second most powerful pastor next to Larry and a possible competitor for the top job. It was a new entrepreneurial organization growing rapidly. Neither Larry nor Havsgard had a college degree or had worked outside the cavalry movement, which did not have established traditions or specific credentials required for leadership. Yeah, Larry didn't even go to school to study the Bible. That meant personal followings were an important barometer for pastors, and Havsgard was popular with many at Harvest Riverside as the church was expanding. Okay, and this was the Harvest Riverside staff in the 90s. I'm assuming that's our boy Greg Laurie. And let's see. Havsgard, front row, far left, coral shirt. Okay, that guy. I don't see Shuff. Maybe he was, or Shut. Maybe he wasn't part of this group yet. Anyway. But Havsgard also had his problems and detractors. He was known to be volatile, to have a big ego, requiring constant praise, and to be badly organized. For example, frequently forgetting scheduled meetings. This sounds like a typical mega church issue. Okay, here we go. Now we get into the allegations. Okay, the origins of the Harvest Homes. As reported in Calvary Chapel magazine, they even have their own magazine, Havsgard first came to Romania on an outreach in 1998 as an assistant to Greg Laurie, who is a nationally known Calvary Chapel evangelist and pastor, visiting under the auspices of a group called Samaritan's Purse. Havsgard distributed shoe boxes of gifts to children in Bucharest on behalf of Harvest Riverside. I think that's the thing they do every Christmas. I see signs for it and stuff. It's you get a shoe box and fill it up with a bunch of stuff for kids, which actually does seem like a good ministry. But not if these kinds of people are involved. Lord knows. Anyways, the experience induced Havsgard to suggest and Laurie to approve a permanent Harvest Riverside mission in Romania. Romania was well known in the 90s for attracting pedos because, in addition to the grinding poverty that drove many people, including children, into this kind of work, the country's institutions were weak and corrupt, and foreigners could easily evade punishment. In fact, Bucharest was widely regarded as the pedo capital of Europe. So basically, people were just traveling here, exploiting, harming the children of this country, and, leaving them to rot. And here comes this church, and they know full well what goes on here, and they perpetrate the same crimes. Later in 98, Havsgard returned to Bucharest with Kathy to implement a plan Laurie had approved to build up Harvest Riverside's presence in Romania, aka the Harvest Homes, and establish a local Romanian entity, the Fundația Harvest Romanian, which means local foundation, to handle the formalities. While the defendants delegated much of the day-to-day running of the Harvest Home to Havsgard in particular, key decisions were made in California by Laurie and Schutt, in keeping with Laurie's position of supreme authority at Harvest Riverside. And because an important object of the Romanian venture was to bring financial benefits and prestige to Harvest Riverside and Laurie. Now, here we get into how they used all this as a means to make more money. Okay, the Harvest Homes were designed in part as a fundraising and marketing tool for Harvest Riverside, which was able to attract more money and positive regard for itself and Laurie in the United States by highlighting its charitable efforts in Romania. So they were using their charitable efforts in Romania to get more well known, to attract more good people into their big spider web, and defendants conducted regular and substantial fundraising programs in California based on this Romanian venture. Harvest Riverside taught congregants in California how to say Jesus loves you in Romanian to build connections with the child residents of Harvest Homes and encourage donations. Wow, isn't that nice of them? Defendants established a California charity, ARC, to raise money in the United States for the Harvest Homes and other international projects, and to promote the Harvest organizations. Harvest Riverside and ARC, in partnership, conducted many fundraising events in California. The money raised in these joint fundraisers went through the California Corporation and was then redistributed to Harvest Riverside and other Harvest Riverside ventures. So money, he's basically claiming the money never went to any of what they said it was going to go for. It just funneled back through the churches. Harvest Riverside and ARC shared employees and management, including Havsgard and Shutt. And another ARC board member, Wes Denham, was a Calvary minister close to Laurie and Shutt. I'm not really sure what that paragraph was trying to say. I might be dumb, but anyway. Okay. Defendants set up ARC in California to be a fundraising vehicle for their activities in Romania and become a conduit for members of Harvest Riverside to donate funds meant for Harvest Riverside's activities in Romania, in addition to funds sent directly by Harvest Riverside. Harvest Riverside and Laurie effectively controlled ARC, this charity fundraising thing. Now, money from Harvest Riverside and ARC paid employees of the local foundation. ARC used Harvest Riverside's and Laurie's resources and contacts to raise money, including using Harvest Riverside's main fundraising telephone number in California. Harvest Homes showed many indicators of being an outpost of Harvest Riverside. They were commonly referred to as being part of, quote, Harvest. The children were given Harvest branded t-shirts and hats to wear. Visitors and volunteers from Harvest Riverside came to help at the homes. I see. Here's a picture of Kathy and these kids with their Harvest t-shirts on. Like I said, the more and more I think of the name Harvest, the creepier and creepier it sounds to me. Another picture. Havsgard returned frequently to California, where he remained a legal resident at all these relevant times, checking in with Shutt and Laurie, and sometimes bringing children with him as walking advertisements for his Romanian mission, and to sexually abuse in private at his house and elsewhere. They participated in multiple church services and raised money for Harvest Riverside and Harvest Homes. That's disgusting. It's giving like Epstein vibes. It really is. For years, Harvest Riverside deposited large sums of money supposedly designated for these homes at operating costs directly into Havsgard's personal banking account. Havsgard then used large portions of these funds to buy things for himself, as well as abundant presents and alcohol for his child victims, to keep them pliant and to buy silence from the Harvest staff about this abuse. So he was basically like getting them drunk and all kinds of things like that too. Harvest Riverside allowed this misdirection of its funds to continue for years. Laurie set up a substantial venture in Romania and directed large sums to its support, but required no proper accounts or financial audits, no regular inspection of the homes, no child protection policies or training. Instead, Laurie continued to gather the donations that flowed into the Harvest Riverside based on energetic advertising in the United States about the supposed good works Harvest was doing in Bucharest and the accompanying prestige. He didn't even implement policies or training, so you can't tell me he was doing this for the best interest of these children. They totally used and exploited these children in every sense. Spiritually, financially, physically, mentally, like in every way possible. In every way possible. And I don't know who's worse I really don't. Havsgard, or the one who was perpetrating all this disgusting behavior, or Lowry, who set it up. Probably Lowry. This probably was his plan the whole time. I mean, at some point, you can't help but wonder. It's like, oh, this is so evil. It's like, was this their plan to do this evil? And yeah, I'm starting to think it was. I am starting to think it was. Because even after all the people came to Lowry and told him, and told him what was going on, they still kept silent. They still let it happen. They even gave Havsgard a bonus, like a $250,000 bonus. So this was obviously what they wanted him to do. I mean, why else would they give him a bonus after they were informed of all this abuse happening? Why else would they have given him a bonus? It's like, here, good job, thanks. Thanks for doing what we wanted you to do, bud. And then, when they go back to the inspector, it's like, oh, that's just shameful. We'll just slowly cut off the money. That's what we'll do. Let's just keep this quiet, just keep it quiet. We don't want to ruin God's word, God would be real angry if we talked about this in public. But anyways, I will be back to continue reading where we're leaving off here, because in the next episode we're going to get into his sister and her reports of what Havsgard's sister, of what he did to her when they were children. We'll get into it. But, stay tuned, and I'm going to link this in the description if you guys wanted to read it for yourselves. Thanks for watching.